Hi, everyone. My name is Mislav Magic, and welcome to another edition of Simple Talk, a podcast where we discuss with industry leaders about real challenges and learn about opportunities within the ever-evolving financial operations of insurance agencies. We aim to get practical advice for more efficient operations from real-world experience. And that's why today I'm super excited to have Josh Kolbus from Brown & Brown joining us. Josh, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Absolute pleasure. So just to kick it off, if you can tell our audience a little bit about yourself, role at Brown & Brown, and maybe even background in your experience, that would be fantastic.
Oh, absolutely. Good afternoon. Josh Kolbus. I live in West Lafayette, Indiana, home of Purdue University. Despite all that, I've got to rep my Hawkeyes this afternoon after that Sweet 16 win last night. Been with the company since college, really. So dating myself, it's been about 14 years. In that time, I've worked in various roles. I started out in insurance operations, which was more of an internal audit, kind of getting a feel from the business, what not to do. Our mantra within the company is make no big mistakes. So that was a great way to get my feet wet and kind of absorb our great culture. From there, I'd spent time as a marketing manager in both Indianapolis and Denver. And then in about 2017, we were an industry leader in consolidating agency management systems. So previously, we had relied on TAM. We had servers in almost every office, and we were controlling our environment at a local office level. So in 2017, we pivoted to AMS 360, started that conversion process. It took about 6 or 7 years, pretty much have our entire business on the platform now. From a company perspective, we're a top 4 broker. So it's fun to just learn of all the different scenarios and see what the issues are at a local and enterprise level. And then, of course, within the past year, we've got a significant acquisition in Accession or Risk Strategies. They're just shy of $2 billion. So we're kind of going back to the drawing board and going through additional conversions at some point in time. So it's been a ride, and we started out with acquisitions, but then there's that final bullet of the job description that says other job duties as assigned. So we bid in wherever we need to. So we've got producer commissions that are off at quarter end. We're helping clean those up, as well as post-direct bill, doing agency bill, win at all costs, doing whatever we can do to help the business out in their time of need.
I love it. So you effectively grew up from not necessarily the mailroom, but really close to the mailroom, all the way to operations at not necessarily global level, but you do operate across North America. And I love that this conversation can go many different ways. So I'm curious to find out, but it sounds like it's anything from system management, system integrations. So the topic of today will literally be, I'd love to get your perspective on the future of financial operations within the insurance agency space. You guys went from a decentralized, as you said, each local office, to sort of this centralized with the probably divisional setups and so on, scaling challenges. What do you see maybe a biggest challenge / biggest opportunity, and where is the future of financial operations, at least in Brown & Brown, or your opinion, in the marketplace going? What's the challenge? What's the biggest opportunity?
Yeah, I mean, where do you even begin with that? I would correct you, and I wouldn't say standardized or centralized. We say standardized.
Okay.
Each office still makes their own decisions, but we try and get economies of scale, right? I think I could boil that down into two subjects for the purposes of this podcast. I would say number one, APIs. If we have bad data, how do we clean that data up quickly and efficiently? And how do we get that to feed into other platforms? So whether it's Dynamics, Salesforce, or an employee benefit software. So I would say that's number one. And then I would follow that up by saying standardizing producer commissions. They're all over the place.
Gotcha. So taking it maybe a step higher, it seems like data is number one, and then accessibility to that data, getting clean data, and then being able to do standardizing of commissions and so on. But then once you have that standardized clean data, how do you access it to be able to generate the reports or intelligence that you're looking for? Is that kind of the idea?
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. How do we have those conversations with our carrier partners, with our producers? How do we create tactful incentives for our teammates, and difficult to strategize and implement without valuable data?
So just out of curiosity, I know this is way too broad of a question, but hopefully you have an answer for me. But what is sort of so important on prioritizing the data? Like, what are the challenges or what are the impacts that you hope to? You mentioned the commissions. What is the impact on Brown and Brown or any other agencies around commissions? Like, why should people be addressing that?
Right. Well, first, I would say it's people's livelihood, right? We don't want to short them commissions, but as a publicly traded company, we also don't want to overpay either. We've got the responsibility to our shareholders. So commissions could be different for different producers. It could be different based off of a department or a type of business. So how do we segment that and optimize the time spent and making sure those are correct?
So I mean, I thought it was probably very clear, and you answered it very clearly. So it's impact on obviously employees' livelihood, but it's also impact on your revenue generation, making sure you're recognizing all your commissions as well as paying them out correctly. And you can only do that. I mean, being so big and with so many sort of acquisition, as you said, you're standardized, not necessarily centralized. How do you get clarity around that data, be it that it's carrier commissions and the payouts? Anything else? I thought before we started recording, you mentioned also something around like having visibility into cancellation. Is that also part of that, like data visibility?
I don't recall saying cancellations as much. I mean, we do have a pretty good idea of cancellations if people follow the process, either a cancellation confirmation transaction, but and there's an API for that as well.
No, that makes sense. With that, what are some of the at least ideas that you're bantering around? Is how do you standardize that, or how do you capture that clear data? Is there a path, or is it still sort of a whiteboard process?
Just in terms of like commissions?
Sure. Yes.
Sure. Yeah. I meant a couple different things on the commissions front, right? And we've had these conversations with Vertifor, and it's in their roadmap in the upcoming years. So for instance, most of the time our production teammates aren't getting paid on small business, right? While we do have commission defaults in AMS, you can't exclude certain business segments. So either agency, division, branch, department, group. So we're kind of scoping out what that looks like. Ideas floated around past Vertifor are, maybe excluding policies that generate under a certain amount of revenue. right? Which opens up a whole other jar of worms, right? If it's new business, you don't really have historical production to base that off of. Do you look at the estimated revenue, or do you do a trailing 12, right? So those are all considerations. There's a lot of thought that needs to go into it. In current state, however, the defaults do allow us to base off of like transaction type. So whether that's new, renewal, or rewrite. There's also some problems there, especially when it comes to downloads, but it puts us in a much better position with defaults than without defaults.
Gotcha. That's interesting. And now, at least in my head, it's kind of tying it all when you mention API. Is API an important factor for import? And this is a question because I don't know it. Is it a priority for importing or capturing data? Or from what you're mentioning, is this also priority so that potentially a BI tool or a third party vendor can help you with these kind of workflows that you just described? Or most likely case scenario, it's for both, I guess.
Right. Otherwise, we get that surprise at the end of the month. So we do have some Power BI tools that help capture like some of our commissions and in reporting. However, we've got some accounting teammates that aren't probably running that report until the end of the month. So maybe today, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the challenge, right? If they were in the spot in January, which is a heavy renewal month on both the P&C and employee benefit side, if I had tagged an incorrect commission or I'd set them up as a memo commission, meaning it doesn't accrue a payable and it's not going to hit the expense or balance sheet, but it should have, I might have a couple thousand invoices to correct. So I know we were talking about defaults, but you hit on another wish list, right? Is there a way to expeditiously update all those invoices at one time? Currently, it's a manual process, one by one. You've got to chip away. So, is there a way to maybe update some of those commissions en masse?
Got it. So that sort of flexibility rather than being rigid, which at your scale and level becomes painful. If I have to update few invoices, no big deal. When you're talking about thousands, it becomes a major challenge.
Yeah, and there's two sides to the coin, right? On one side, we should probably be checking more periodically. The reality is we all have other things to do and we expect commissions to go accordingly. But if somebody was set up incorrectly, you don't always expect that. On the other hand, we do work for a risk management company, though. So how do we hedge against that risk? Well, we should probably be looking more periodically.
Mm-hmm. So there is sort of both process improvements internally that you guys are looking at, as well as is there third-party tools, APIs, or within Vertafore or AMS 360 itself? How do we address some of these big chunks that cause headaches? Because what we always say is volume is pain, right? Low volumes, everything is easy peasy. When you start scaling and dealing with millions of commission transactions and things like that, that 2% where it doesn't bother you when it's 1,000 transactions becomes a significant volume. And then it's just not just the labor itself where you're touching on, and maybe we can explore that a little more, is that error. It's not just the amount of work that it's required to be fixed. It's bad data produces bad outcomes, right? As you said, for producers not to be able to get paid correctly, for your shareholders not necessarily correctly reporting revenues. But I'm assuming there's other sort of byproducts of that data as well, right? Bad data causes bad outcomes. Any other outcomes that bad data touches that you see within your operations?
On commissions or just at large?
Just at large.
Yeah, I'd say on the flip side to commissions and producers, we've got those carrier relationships, right? So I always use the example. It's almost a decade old at this point, but Chubb acquired Ace or Ace acquired Chubb. Don't even remember this far out, but when we look at that, do we look at them as two separate carriers or one? Probably one. It falls under one AM Best code. So there's, parent company updates. How do we have those conversations with companies? I might pull up Chubb and forget to include Ace, right? So how do we update the AMS parent company and have those conversations within AMS, our Power BI reporting tools, or if you guys are unfamiliar with Risk Match, also a Vertafore-owned product. It's a great aggregator of data. But, need to make those updates first and make sure that the data integrity is there.
Yeah, it's amazing because as I'm listen to your thoughts there, it seems like there's tremendous access to data, managing the quality of that data, and then being able to, I don't want to say manipulate, but do things with data becomes challenging. So it's almost a catch-22. You have incredible access to all of this data. Not all of it is going to be standardized, or there's going to be human error and things like that. But then fixing that or producing something with it, be it that it's within Vertafore or with external systems because of API, becomes a challenge. So almost kind of like the future state that you're describing is, can we manipulate or have access to that data outside so that we can manipulate it significantly quicker than dealing with, as you said, thousands of invoices that need to be updated manually?
Yeah. How do we update some of those policies all at once too? So I think it's out there. Even internally, we've got a whole data team, we've got a robust support team. They're very diligent in what they do, but even then, we still have inactive companies on policies. Why? We're able to renew those plans with an inactive company, and therefore it's on renewal. So it kind of just lingers.
Yeah.
It's no one's fault, but how do we find a way to expeditiously fix that or discontinue those inactive companies on a renewal plan?
So another curiosity question: is there a pitfall to the challenge in a sense, or is it so rigid or potentially difficult because by being able to make mass updates, is there a bad outcome? Is that potentially a reason, or is it just because the system is built in a particular way and you've reached this area where now you need to probably take the data outside and deal with a specialized vendor? I'm just kind of curious because I know a lot of the times, even in CRMs or accounting systems, you do certain restrictions because by allowing too much flexibility, that also creates a bit of a mess.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's Pandora's box sometimes. You really have to be careful what you wish for. To that, I would say on the direct bill, I don't really see any adverse impacts. On agency bill, however, there could be some negative consequences, and we'd have to give that some thought, because what happens when you change a parent company on an agency billed item, it's going to back out that invoice and rebill it. Not a big deal if you haven't paid the company.
Yeah.
If you have paid the company, it's going to say they owe you money back, and then you owe money to the same company. So typically it's the same person, or same entity, but they're going to be asking questions.
Yeah, not a great look.
Job security.
Yeah. Awesome. Any sort of, because I mean, yes, you're the fourth largest insurance agency in North America, but it feels like these challenges are going to go scale all the way down to even mid-sized agencies and so on, because lots of agencies are scaling through acquisition and growth and things like that. Any sort of key takeaways as your journey through Brown and Brown over last 14 years that you would kind of give to the viewers here? Say, hey, these are kind of the three principles, as you said. What can we do with data? What can we do with external vendors? Is there sort of three keys for you that you look at, hey, for us to make financial operations as best as we can? Because I think a lot of people look at it and goes, oh my God, how do you eat an elephant? Because as you were mentioning, we only focused on two things within this giant sector. Like, how do you sort of identify priorities? Those, is it like, low hanging fruit that's a easy thing to do for a quick win, or a major project? Like, how does anybody, or how does Brown decide, like, hey, here's the 5 projects we need to get done this year, because these are the expectations, and it could be these are easy, we don't get huge value, but it's multiple of the lift, versus, hey, this is really important for our producers as well as for our shareholders, this is a must?
Right. No, like we face that question every day. It's what's high value but also high effort. On the flip side is, there's other high value items that are low effort, right? So I'd say we manage those. We've got project managers, and we talk it out. Obviously, we start with the low effort, high reward. And part of that is data integrity. You said something just a minute ago about our industry, and it's super interesting what's happening now. It's either eat or be eaten, right? Just there's so much consolidation in the space, so it's probably not an if, but when there's going to be a conversion, whether you're converting somebody into yours, or you're converting into somebody else's. And that starts with data integrity. And it's an oxymoron to say smooth conversion. Like, it's just
Easy
the nature of the beast.
implementations. Yes.
Yeah. But I would say just getting that credible data that's accurate is going to make that process a whole heck of a lot smoother.
That makes a lot of sense, actually. Glad you brought that up, because it I guess blew over my head. But yeah, with consolidation, integration, again, we're going back to the same topic. If your data is clean and good, I can map that, I can import that, and I can set you up much easier. And then to your point about APIs and integrations, it's exactly the same thing. If I have access to that structured, clean data, the project is significantly smoother and easier. If we're dealing with non-standardized things where we're guessing, and that conversion is going to be probably a nightmare. So it's funny how, to your point, from acquisition to running operations, I'm sure it's not just the producers. I'm sure it's financial folks, like from a CFO down to receivable folks, and servicing managers need access to their clean data to be able to do their job. And then finally to the shareholders to be able to report. So I love the session today around the data and accessibility to that data. Josh, really, really appreciate your time. And thank you for joining us today at Simple Talk.
Of course. Thanks so much, and hope you all have a great weekend.
Likewise. And we're